Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our Coda on Coda series. This is our third, actually, second with Jamie, where we're talking about how we here at Coda run our business using, surprise, surprise, spoiler alert, Coda Docs. That's how we do things here. So today's topic is all about the process that we have developed to run our 2 all-hands meetings that really bookend our weeks on Mondays and Fridays. So just in case any of you have not attended one of these sessions before, here's how it's going to work. We're going to be sharing our screen, but honestly, the main thing that we're trying to do today is answer any questions you have. So you've got the chat field over on the right side of your screen, which you can use at any given time to say what's on your mind. Yes, exactly. Jamie has just demonstrated it perfectly. The chat is fun, I agree. But if you have a question, I would ask, just so we don't lose it, as Jamie is so kindly pointing out, below our lovely faces is a nice button that says Ask a Question. And that's where you will go to ask a question. And if you maybe want to see what other folks are asking about, you can always click there and upvote. So if you've got the same question as somebody else, go ahead and pop it in there, and that'll be a nice way to stay in touch. And anytime today, if you've got a question, post it there. There's no such thing as an interruption in our virtual sessions. Really, it's about you. Now, just out of curiosity, I would love to know, since Jamie and I hosted a similar crowdcast about another type of meeting called Catalyst that we do here, did any of you attend that or watch the replay? Just give me a yes or no in that chat field. I'd love to just know kind of where people are starting off with their background. So yes or no, did you attend or not? Yes, I would hope that Jamie was there. Nice, Jean-Pierre, good to see you. Fantastic. All right. And looks like no one else is going to tell us. That's okay. You can keep your secrets. We will keep them safe. So just so all of you know, here at Coda, we really take meeting culture very seriously. We actually went through a really long research process and team project to reevaluate, hey, why aren't our meetings working and how can we make them better? And what we landed on is having 3 different meeting types. Jamie, you want to just give a quick overview of the 3 types that we landed on that all start with C?
Yes, I know. We always have things that are acronyms. So the first one we had was what we talked about last session, which was our Catalyst meeting. Mm-hmm. That one is really about inspiring ideas and eliciting feedback, things like that for projects that you're working on. We had context meetings. So we've got Catalyst and Context. Context meetings are really like, hey, I'm just going to share knowledge with you and you share knowledge with me. No decisions have to be made. We're just keeping everybody aware of what's going on for specific projects. So you've got your Catalyst and your Context. And now we have Cadence meetings. These are the things that are on routine. They happen all the time. Just like Maria was saying, the one we're going to talk about today is our Monday and Friday Cadence meetings. So Cadence, Catalyst, and Context.
Nice.
Okay, got them all.
So Cadence, I think the important thing for folks to know is that this is a very specific process we designed for our business because our business had some specific problems we wanted to solve. The first one is about 1/3 of our workforce right now is remote. And we have 2 different offices where people are co-located but working separately. So Jamie is up in snowy Seattle today, and I'm down here in Redwood City, and we actually have another office in San Francisco. So we have people who are highly distributed. And if you think about doing an all-hands meeting, how do you keep everybody engaged and also make sure that all of those remote folks have just enough ability to understand what's going on and be part of it as the people who are co-located? The other really important problem that we wanted to solve with our meeting culture, I'm realizing I have a really cool hair thing coming out, was that we are a very fast-moving startup. We have lots of different product developments that are in flight. We're working on all kinds of things, a mile a minute. And so it can be hard to really understand oh, wait, what was launching? Who's launching? Wait, what is that team working on? How are we all connected? So we wanted to make sure that this solution allowed us to be transparent and being aware of all those moving parts without it taking 4 hours, because that would, of course, be super, super lame. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. We're going to walk through a scrubbed version of this doc. Again, if you've got a question, go ahead, let us know by posting to chat, asking a question. That's going to be the way to stay in touch. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Jamie, if you could just do me a solid and let me know when you can see it, that would be fantastic.
Not yet. Got it.
You got a lot of weird feedback on your side there, Jamie. That was super strange. All right, now you're back to normal. We don't have the rumble anymore. So here we are inside of the Cadence 3.0 doc. Now, Jamie, do you want to talk about the fact that it is a 3.0 and what that means in this case?
Yes, lots of things. So we started with our first Coda Cadence doc, and we kind of did that for a run of about a year or so. And then we did another doc, and we actually refreshed everything at the end of a calendar year. And it got down to the next level. So we were like, hey, we've been using and learning all these different things and adjusting as our company has grown as well. I think when the first part of this cadence kind of idea was happening in 1.0, the company was really small. Like putting everybody in one room together in a boardroom was actually a feasible.
It was doable.
Yeah, exactly. Now we're big enough that it's actually really hard. Just like Mary was saying, there's people all over the place. We even have lots of remote people who are all across the US in single solo offices.
Hey, Jamie, hold on a second. I think there's something kind of weird with your mic. It's coming in and out of like being super loud and then you being back to normal language. So I think maybe you might be putting something on top of it.
No, but I will. Hold on. Let me see if I can shake it.
Just tap it a few times.
It may work. How's it going now?
Now you sound fine. So
turns out shaking a machine works.
All right, great, cool.
So weird. So really quickly, yeah, it just we grew as a company, so needing to have better and different agile tools were necessary. So each year we've actually updated this cadence doc, taken a copy and added lots of new elements, taken away things that weren't working anymore. And it kind of grew with us as a company.
Cool. And I will say that this is something I always encourage people to do. When you're building a Coda doc, don't feel like you have to stick with how you've always built it. You can always change, you can renovate. And I actually encourage you to make that a very usable, malleable place. And it's kind of like, anytime we move into a new year, it's like, yeah, I'm going to get fit. I'm going to clean up my house. I'm going to do all those things. It's kind of like the same thing that we did here with our Coda Cadence doc. So Jamie actually built this doc, which I think is super exciting, which is why I'm glad we have her here with us. And let's just kind of do a quick rundown of how this thing is put together. So all good Coda docs that are a central part of your business, we always recommend having a welcome section. So this lets you know, hey, this is our cadence. This is how we run our business. Here's how this works. Here's how we use this doc. So that if you're the new person on the team, you don't have to go, wait, what is this? I don't know anymore. Please tell me. This is an area that really sets the tone. So I always encourage you, just like you would have a README on a file or a tutorial, this is a great way to just ensure that everybody feels really comfortable and confident. So the meat and bones of this doc really happens here over in this cadence side. So let's imagine it's Monday morning. Jamie and I both have our coffee. We're feeling really good about it. And how Monday starts is that all of the sub-teams, of which there are 6 now, Jamie? Do we have 6? Yes.
6 focus areas.
6 focus areas, yes. Each of those 6 focus areas has some kind of team tag up where they talk about, what they want to do for the week. Each team has a different style because, of course, it would make sense. So the idea is that you want to leave that team little tag up, which is usually about a half hour or 20 minutes, depending on the team's organization, with an idea of what you are committing to doing for the week. And we'll talk about these weekly highlights in a moment. But what would happen is then the team leader would go and click on add your weekly goals right here. And Jamie, what team should we be on today? What do you think?
I think we should be on my team, so business platform.
Yes, of course. Wonderful. So we will select that focus area. And then here we would just copy and paste from maybe our team doc or from a note what we're going to do. So we're going to be the best team ever. And let's see, what else do we want to do, Jamie? What else should we add?
Let's triage bugs.
Oh, that sounds like a great idea. Yes, we will triage bugs. And let's give ourselves one more thing.
How about decide on a new strategy for BizPlat?
Great. So in this case, we've got a pretty short list, but when it comes to our team in real life, these will actually be fairly long. And each team kind of organizes how they put their notes in here a little bit differently, depending on how they are running what they're working on. So now we've got this, it's been submitted. So now we've finished our team meeting. Jamie and I are enjoying our coffee, and then we go to our weekly all hands cadence meeting Monday at noon, right here inside of San Francisco or Redwood City or Seattle, wherever we are. And what would happen is that our leader of product, Lane, will come in and go, all right, everybody, here we go. We're going to kick off our meeting. And he'll just pull up this doc like we're looking at it right now and go, great. We start with solutions, partnerships, marketing, and brand. And what everybody does is we just read what's been listed here. And if anybody has questions, they can ask them. So like, oh, hey, can you tell me a little bit more about these bus wrappers? What is that? Can you tell me more about Facebook ads? What are we doing there? So it ends up moving very quickly. Jamie, anything else about this particular part of the doc that we think should be flagged for folks?
The one thing that we did that was kind of a minor update in our 3.0 is we added a button that says randomize.
Yes, right up here.
So what we realized was that all the time we'd put in our 6 focus areas, and it was always the same people first and the same people last. So nobody was really on their toes, for example. People started shifting in and out a little bit because like, oh, I go at the end of it or I go at the beginning of it. And we realized that's not really fair to anybody. So we put this little randomizing button in for funsies, and it literally changes the order of who goes when. So you really don't know until you hit the little like, machine and which who's going up first. So I that.
And it also is like, it takes away that power dynamic of like, oh, what team's the most important? It's like everybody's equal, and that equality is really important to us here. Yeah, Jamie, you were going to say something. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. So the other thing I really liked about this update that I did with the team was that we used layouts. If you've ever used layouts before. And that's what you're seeing one row at a time. And this is the display view. And so that puts the full focus on this so that people don't read ahead. And then the important parts of what's in focus for right now.
Yeah, and if I were sharing my screen in a team meeting, I could also click on this present mode option, and that would go to full screen here, which would really put it even more front and center.
Yeah,
nice. So that's the first part. But let's say that Jamie and I have some questions we would like to ask our CEO, or a more general question about the company. That's where this kickoff dory comes into play. And I'm going to go ahead and just collapse that side list. And what I could do is I could just click on this little plus sign to add a question that I might have. So maybe I could be like, what do we think is going to be, but we should spell it correctly, probably, the biggest trend this year? I don't know, something there. And then that would be flagged. Folks could then upvote these questions if they have similar questions, which lets our leadership team and the other teams know, what's most important? Let's tackle that first. Now, let's say we realize, wow, this question that Maria has asked is so amazing and so cool and awesome, and it requires so much time to talk about. We could click on this button over here, which would add it to our lunch topics, which is another Coda tradition that we developed, I think, about a year and a half ago.
But it's been a while now.
Yeah. Jamie, do you want to chat a little bit about what virtual lunch is and kind of where it fits into our culture?
Yeah. So virtual lunch is, it's become kind of the coolest part of my opinion. I mean, I love learning what other teams are doing, but I really enjoy the diversity of the topics we choose for virtual lunch. So we spend half an hour or so going through what you just saw with the team. And then anybody who wants to have a virtual lunch topic, they'll just go ahead and add a row in here. And we have 5 rooms set aside with 5 different Zooms. And you can join a room and just have a chat about it. And it's everything from doing a crossword puzzle together, which I think Maria is a big believer in.
My addiction these days.
And the team will just spend half an hour putting together a crossword puzzle, all the way to something that's, biggest trends of the year, or I have a specific interest, or I need you to help me with this design, those types of things. And it kind of is an open place, open forum for anybody to jump in and join. So people kind of gravitate towards where their desires are, which I think is also really great because you end up with these kind of more serendipitous moments. So think of this as fostering more serendipity.
Yeah. Yeah. And if I just think about last week's virtual lunches, we had the crossword puzzlers. We had folks talking about the Super Bowl commercials, because here in the United States, the football NFL Super Bowl happened on Sunday, which was very, very big. We had folks talking about, hey, Shashir, can you share some insight about your time at YouTube? We'd love to chat with you about it. And then a big bit of initial feedback, kind of a pre-catalyst, if you will, on some pricing questions. So it's a huge variety, and that's the point. And that it's something that you don't have to worry about, I can't run into Jamie when I'm walking through the office because we don't have wormholes between Seattle and Redwood City. But hey, we could actually run into each other here in virtual lunch. So something that we developed that we really, really enjoy. I'm just going to do a quick question check. Looks like we're great. So again, at any time today, you can feel free to ask a question that's on your mind. So that's our Monday. And again, we do this in just exactly an hour every single Monday, about 30 minutes of the goal review here, and then about 30 minutes of that more open virtual lunchtime. So let's imagine that Jamie and I have a super awesome week. We are just doing a great job. Everything's awesome. And it gets to Friday. So what we want to do every Friday is we want to make sure that folks can know what was accomplished. We have some time to celebrate our wins, and also giving people a time to be able to show off some of the things that they've been working on. So how this works is just like our Monday, we've got this randomized button to decide the order of who gets to show what. And the teams will go ahead and just put in their achievements here. So let's go to business platform here. And we could just pop in our achievements. Mm-hmm. And I could say, still the best team. If we wanted to, we could say, we closed 45 bugs, squashed, and maybe we want to put details on the new strategy. Yeah. And maybe a link to something. We could do that here. But the idea is that we're just putting in just very quickly in just a couple minutes, here's the things that we did. And usually what folks will do is they'll say, hey, everybody, let's just go ahead, add your updates one at a time and be able to move that there. We also have a place for key decisions. So if that strategy is something that we've really decided on, we can put in that key decision here. And then my other favorite is we have one of our column types in this layout is an image. So you could put in images of test results or of user testing or of a new product GIF flow or of some great new ads that you've gone and released out there. So it's a good way to be able to show that in this presentational mode. Jamie, anything else on our Friday bit here that we think is really important for folks to know about?
Yeah, so one of the big updates that we made from 2.0 to 3.0 is our OKR process is a lot more apparent and transparent inside the system. Before, we were at bookends of doing OKRs every 6 weeks is basically our typical sprint schedule. Mm-hmm. But we realized we really want to be visiting those and keeping those up front in our minds when we're setting our goals for the week and ending our goals for the week inside of this cadence meeting. So we've added this subtable into each one of these rows, each one of these items. Mm-hmm. And this actually lets you adjust, have you actually made progress this week or not? And what's great about this is we hooked it up to the company objectives. Mm-hmm. So now if we move these, it will change the number in the company objective. So that's the biggest forefront, is that we're all working towards the same common goals. And we want to make sure that everybody understands that those goals are aligned. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the things we're playing with right now, and we are working on how to make that even better. So,
because if any of you have done OKRs, you know that it's super valuable to set them and have them outlined, but sometimes it can be really hard in the throes of work to make them be like a part of how you actually get things done. So we found this to be a really helpful way to not only remind us, hey, these were the things you committed to, but also to make them feel a bit more relevant and a bit more helpful in that day-to-day process.
Yep.
Cool. So let's actually take a look at the OKR side of the house. So one of the things I really like is that we just have an area where we can put all of the company level OKRs and also the company's vision. So this is an area where we can put in a little bit more of that text-based outline of how we think about what we exist to do. Also a great way for new folks to get exposed to kind of how our leadership is thinking about things. But then we've got this OKR planning area, and this is where it actually gets done. So the planning summary, this is where we actually put in how you really think about the flow. So what we're going to do and how that planning process is going to work. And then I believe we have this biz planning area that's fully outlined. Yeah. So here is how Jamie and I would go ahead and set our team. So we're going to go ahead and just collapse these to now just to help us focus a little bit. So the first thing we do is we set the OKR period that we're working on. So, all right, which quarter section is it? Let's say it's Q2A, why not? Then what we could do is we could say, all right, now it's time for us to create a summary for our 2-pager. So this is a way for us to include in text, here's kind of what we think is important, how it's going to work. We could put in risks that we think are important to think about. And then we would go ahead and create the objectives and key results for our team. So we're kind of marrying this kind of textual, cerebral side with then the tactical, more table side of the house. So we could go ahead and create an objective right here. And then be able to add all of the key results that we want to do, which is just a subtable in this location. And also being able to do a lookup to company key results to show connections, which I think is a really cool way to kind of create that alignment inside of the house. And then what we could do is we could go ahead and say, all right, rest of the company, come on, take a look once we're finished. And this is something that if you've seen enough Coda on Coda, you know we love topic voting. Here we call them Dories because that was what all of our ex-Googlers used to call this same kind of moderator situation. And then we would have this ability to post your OKRs to Slack, which is kind of a great opportunity. So Jamie, you were the mastermind behind this particular process. You want to talk through kind of how this is built, the intentions, and sort of give us your inside scoop on how this all works?
Yeah. So one of the things that we did in the last rev in Coda 2.0 versus in the Cadence 2.0 versus the Cadence 3.0. In Cadence 2.0, we did have these folder sections, but we didn't actually have anything that was consistently required for each team.
Right.
And so we got a little bit lost, and it was great because it allowed the teams on one hand to get creative about how they want to manage their work. And teams being of different natures, the BizPlat team would do things very different than maybe our people and ops team. We wanted to kind of leave some of that flexibility, but also kind of bring some more form to it so that we could do some of the things we just talked about of double checking our OKRs on a weekly basis. And so part of this was to actually set up, so every team had one section that they needed to go to, and they all looked the same. So any one of these, you can see them. In the second question you ask here, where you're actually saying, hey, look, we just need to kind of know what the end scenario narrative looks like and what the risks are. But you should put in all the other reasonings and things that you did to get you to the place that you could create your OKRs. So that way there's still creativity in there, and there's still kind of letting teams have their own way of doing things, but always netting out to something that as a company we can look across and see the differences. So that's the biggest one here. The other little, for the more advanced Coda folks out there, the other little thing that we did is if you look at the drop down for the OKR period, that's actually attached to our company calendar.
Which is over here under company schedules. Let's go and pop on in there.
Yeah, and so it's the one place, if you look at that current week, that is the current week. It's on a formula that's actually, I used and keyed it across the entire product. So if you're into database and keys match different tables together, that's literally what I did, is every row is what's the current week that row was created. And so given that the OKRs actually pull from our calendar, which week is OKR week. So that when we add those things in, they all kind of naturally flow together as a retrospect.
And this has also all of our different events. So holidays, when board meetings are, because, when you think about what does the time actually look like, right? Oh, turns out that summer, we have a lot of, events that we're running. So kind of changes how you plan and creates that consistency, which I think is awesome. And this is actually a really good segue into kind of this, all of, I would say, like the contextual information about running a business, right? So one of the things is this company calendar view, but the other one is we have an area where it's the launch calendar. So what are the things that we're planning to launch, right? So we could say, oh, you know what? We're going to be launching another product happening on another time. So we could see, okay, great. This is all going to be happening. Let's go ahead and just add a launch. What should we launch today, Jamie? What do you think?
Ooh, let's launch Coda cupcakes.
Oh, yes.
I think that'd be great.
That deserves a few exclamation points. So here we could say then the type, it's a new product, new pack, feature update. I think this is definitely a new product launch.
I think so.
The status here, let's go ahead and say that this is going to be launched, or no, let's make it upcoming. Let's do that. I think that's better.
Okay.
And then the proposed tier, what kind of level of investment do we need to do? This is actually from our lovely PMM here, Andrew, who's absolutely fantastic. Great. And then also we could put the date. So maybe this is going to happen on, let's say on the 6th. That seems like a good plan. We could then include an overview, all sorts of other good stuff, the leads, all the people. So this gives us like tons of information about all the things for this launch that you could possibly want. Yeah. So now what we have is we could also say, all right, let's actually add a content piece of calendar. So maybe we're going to be launching a blog or some kind of template. We could add that here, also include some ideas. And then we also have research. So maybe we're going to be doing some experiments on some new models to see how people respond. We could add some studies. We could also add some outreach. Now, this is nice. I could come here to see all the details, but maybe I'm a really busy person. I know that doesn't happen very often. So what we did is on our Monday kickoff, then we also include all of the highlights for that week. So we could see all of the launch items, all the billing stuff, all of the people who are out of office, which is actually connected to Google Calendar, all of the upcoming content and all the research. So it's a way for us to pull in all of that information from those smaller areas into a really digestible spot. And then since those are all lookups and formulas, you can get all the contextual information just by hovering over the details. So a nice way to bring it all together. The other thing that I really like is just this code-in information. It might seem simple. Like if you think about this doc, there's a lot going on, Jamie. You've added formulas, you've done key databases, buttons, subtables, all sorts of awesome stuff. But if you think about being that new person, right, coming into a company and not knowing who does what or how things are organized can be really stressful. And so I really like that we have the Meet the Team area, which is our sort of organizational chart solution. So I can see for all of the teams, like business platform, there's everybody on the team. Same thing for doc experience. You can see me over here on solutions, partnerships, marketing, and brand right on the side. So I can see who are all those people I was hearing about. And this is actually Crosstalk pulled in from a master doc that we have. And maybe I'm going to be visiting Seattle. Well, I could say, all right, let's get rid of all these other stuff. I just want to look at just that Bellevue location to see who are all these lovely people that I'm talking to. And, oh, come on. It looks like I did something funny with that. I think there's something with the syncing. I made a copy of this doc, so some of the things are being a little bit silly. But here we are. So I'm in Bellevue right now. And so I can see, great, all of the business platform folks that I can talk to in Belleville are Chris, Jason, Jamie, and Josiah. Here's all the doc experience folks, all of the leads, ecosystems, and data. And also John and Charlotte are the two people I can talk to about sales. So it's a way for me to understand how to navigate this organization that I've been plopped into. Or if I'm visiting one of those remote areas, because we do have tons of remote people, I'm able to have that connection. And I can also see, great, the count of the people, how many, I can filter by function. If I just want to see business platform, I could do that too. So it's a way for me to have that connection and to feel like I'm part of something early on. And we also have this Meet Codins area, which what we do here at Coda is if somebody joins the company in that Friday all hands demo, we have them just do a quick 2-minute presentation on who they are, where they used to work, where they're from, things they like to do outside of work, and their working style. And this is an area where folks can just embed their presentation. So you can be like, hey, what was Jamie's working style again? I want to know. And I could get that detail. And then just a bunch of underlying data that's supporting the overall doc here with all of those tables that are powering everything else. So the calendars and the focus areas and all of that good stuff.
Yeah.
Also, if any of you are planning on doing a kind of renovation of a big Coda doc, I do really like, Jamie, that you've included the link to previous iterations of this doc so that you can kind of look back and see, oh, what was that thing that we were doing again? Oh, yeah, that's right. We had that element.
Yeah.
So, Jamie, if you think about this doc, what is your kind of favorite part of what's been built here?
I mean, for me, I think it was the weekly highlights. That was something we weren't doing before. And so I feel like what we were doing as a team was still great in our cadence. The purpose of the cadence was working, where we actually got a chance to see what each team was doing.
Right.
We couldn't necessarily see all the connective tissue as easily. And then also understand what's happening across the board that we might all want to jump into. So for me, I was actually really excited about Crosstalk being a new thing. It's relatively new for us. And so it gave me the ability when I went through the doc to actually talk to other people on the team who represented those sections to say, hey, would you want to keep it in your doc and make that the master, or would you rather have the master here?
Yeah.
But either way, it was fine. And so half of those things is somewhere else, right? And the other half are actually embedded into the doc natively. So for me, I actually really appreciated having that view and that you could craft it in such a way that it can actually just update itself every week. And so it was pretty, for me, it was pretty important just to even understand things like, wait, who's in and out? Wait, there's research happening that I didn't know. Maybe I can jump on that research. Oh, wow. I guess this week we actually have a day off. So when we went through our team's work, oh no, we have to make sure we account for one less day. So that was one of my favorite parts. And the second favorite part was just the idea that the OKR numbers are so visible.
Yeah, totally.
but they forced us to also have to be really clear and crisp with our company OKRs so that we knew how to align them. And that became its own system of double checking and verification of, wow, if they're not solid enough for me to align, something has to change, right? And so I think the conversations that were generated from those two things for this year's updates was probably the most important for me.
And one thing that you said that I just want to like double click on is the fact that this doc is automated. So because Jamie put in that big calendar element and it's pulling that everywhere, we've got filters and formulas that automatically just filter the view to be whatever's going on that week. So there's not one poor person in the back going like, duplicate section, make a new doc, like crying into their Coda docs, right? This is all just like automatically running without any human intervention now that it's been built.
Yep, agreed.
So Jamie, if you think about this doc, what would be some things that you would love to change or update? Like if you're thinking ahead for like 4.0, what that might look like, or things that maybe are imperfect that you'd like to improve?
So a lot of the conversation, I don't have a great answer yet, but I do know that it came up. And so there needs to be some thought about it as we use it for the year to see what we want to do. But the big question for me is how many of the subsystems live in one doc versus how many subsystems live in multiple docs under a workspace.
Yeah.
So we talked a little bit about this earlier around new people coming into the company. This is a really big pivotal doc for them. This is the thing that lets them kind of like position themselves on the field. They're like, okay, I kind of know I can orient myself. I understand what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. But do we want to keep it all in one mega doc or do we want to split it across multiple docs?
Yeah.
So for me, the reason why I say it's kind of a, jury's out is because we may come up with new features that help us solve that problem.
Totally, yeah.
And so I think we do a lot of that at Coda where we'll try out a lot of these workflows or new styles of doing things to help inspire us of, well, what would make it more efficient or make it something that we talked about earlier. You can leverage your own creativity and your own style so that we're really accepting of diverse styles, right?
For sure, yeah.
And then we have a place that we know it all knits together in an automated way. So to me, that's kind of the big question that's out. And so this is the year that we're going to try those two latching moments we talked about. And next year, we'll maybe look at it and say, do we break it apart? Do we have features that, communicate changes differently? That kind of thing.
Yeah. And I think you bring up a really great point that like, if you've been working with a product for a long time, you'd start to develop your own habits, right? This is just how stuff works. And then sometimes a product will introduce something like Crosstalk, which sort of blows up all of the assumptions, right? So it's about challenging, okay, well, before we used to do it all here, but like, I wonder, is there a way to incorporate this new thing into how I'm working? And how does that change how I think about what I do? And again, that's like all about like, you can always rip it up, just make changes. It's fine. Like that's what it's for. And if you're ever nervous about like, I'm not sure if I'm ready to move or do like this big renovation on something I've made, remember, you can always do copy doc, right? You can always copy it and have one area that you can just be messing with stuff, tweaking, tinkering, and then you can always add things when you see fit. Yeah. The other thing that Jamie and I were talking about before the session today is that, this is a pretty big old doc. There's a lot of things that we're working on here. And it's very much something we've built for our own issues we wanted to solve here at Coda. But all of these different component parts could operate independently too, right? You could just have a doc that's Monday, Friday. That's it. You could have just a doc that's that OKR planning process. You could just have a doc that's like all of your company calendars and what's going on. And then you could cross-doc them together if you wanted to, or have them be separated and working in that way. That's also totally acceptable and fine. Just because you're not putting it all together in one thing, using all the bells and whistles of Coda, it's all right. It's really about figuring out what are the problems that you want to solve for your business, and then how can you apply that? Cool. Jamie, any other final words of wisdom before we open it up for just general Q&A, if there's anything on folks' minds?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very curious about whether people would find this valuable, what they're doing now, or if this feels too alien. Just from the idea that, again, in all fairness, it took me 3 or 4 days to put this doc together because I did it from the ground up. I started from the beginning. I didn't take a copy this time just because I wanted to, one, reinforce do I understand how to use this, but also to kind of not get into that myopic mindset. So if there's things that you want to change with how maybe your company does OKRs, or the way that you actually have virtual lunches, you want to institute that kind of fun, fanciful thing that we do, I'd be really curious to hear about it, just because I think that will help us make our stuff even better.
Yeah. Yeah. So as with anything, please feel free to share your feedback with us, either here in chat or via our support channels, either or. We'll make sure that it always gets routed to us, because a little shameless plug for our next Coda on Coda. We'll be talking about our customer feedback tracker next week, which has a big plug-in into Intercom, which is the way that you get in touch with us using that little chat bubble. So that's everything that Jamie and I had prepared, but we are more than happy to stay for as long as you need us with any questions about what we talked about today. If you want to weigh in on Jamie's question around, how valuable is this? Where do you see it fitting in? And honestly, anything Coda related is fair game. So let us know if there's anything on your minds. Otherwise, thanks so much for joining us today. We always appreciate when we get to spend time with you, the most important people, the folks on the ground who are really trying to implement Coda and make those changes for positive action in their businesses and their lives. So it's really our pleasure to be able to spend that time with you. So let us know if there's anything else we can do to help you. Otherwise, it's been a pleasure. Have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. So Jamie, it's snowing in Seattle, which is unusual. While we're waiting for questions to come in.
See it. It's like you can kind of miss, but like you can't see. You see how like it's basically gray? That's supposed to be Seattle. Yes. That's supposed to be like the
Seattle version of snow.
It's really gone. So yeah, I think I've got a feeling we all might bail a little early today.
Go sledding, go sludging, or
pretty fun. So
slushing, not sludging, slushing.
I don't know. It's doing something out there. So I'm kind of watching a big hole in the ground too, because they're building. So
Oh my goodness. Awesome. Well, it seems like we don't have any questions, so we'll go ahead and close out for today. Thanks so much for joining us, everybody. Stay warm, Jamie, up there in snowy Seattle. And best wishes, everyone, for a wonderful week, and we'll see you later.
Bye.